Quazi here. 8 years ago, back in 2017, I came across a quote that would go on to change my life forever. The self-image is the key to human personality and human behavior. Change the self-image and you change the personality and the behavior. Maxwell Maltz. See, before 2017, I honestly believed that the circumstances in my life were predestined. I was destined to go the 9-to-5 route, slave away at a soul-sucking engineering job for 40 years, and only after retirement could I actually begin my life. Not only that, I was single at the time, a hopeless romantic, believing that I was destined to maybe an arranged marriage, or if I were lucky, run into someone at a coffee shop and then marry the first woman I met. To be completely honest with you though, I felt hopeless with my life. It felt like I literally had no control over my fate, and I'd just been dealt the cards I'd been dealt, and that was it. I could do nothing about it. So I would naturally seek refuge in movies and books and yearn to be the hero of the story, that gets the girl, makes the money, and lives happily ever after, but it never really felt possible. It always felt like that life wasn't for me because I wasn't born lucky, I wasn't born into money, I wasn't born a genius. I was just destined to an average life, a life full of mediocrity. This realization began a period of deep depression at the early age of 14, all the way up until I turned 20 in 2017. And then it happened. I was watching a YouTube video at the time by a dating guru who I would watch crushing it with women and making a ton of money doing it, living vicariously through this guy. He was traveling the world, everything I ever wanted. One day, he recommended this book called Psycho-Cybernetics. Of course, I immediately bought it and devoured it cover to cover within a week. This then led me deep into this rabbit hole of personal development. The myriad of different techniques, affirmations, visualizations, law of attraction, and taking massive action. I always wondered, what's the thing that actually works? The thing that actually makes a permanent change happen in someone's life. And that's when I had the greatest epiphany of my life. I discovered the father of all methods, identity shifting. I learned how to shift my identity, and I became a completely different person. And when I became a completely different person, my reality shifted completely. It's as though outer reality was a mirror and it responded to my inner reality. 8 years later now, I'm grateful to say that the life I'm living today would have been inconceivable, unbelievable by the Quazi 8 years ago. Getting paid millions to do what I love. An amazing, loving wife, a beautiful son, living in the house of my dreams. Everything I've ever wanted and more has happened in my life. All because of one thing, identity shifting. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the 4-step method of identity shifting that I've had the privilege of teaching to over 1,500 private clients in our paid programs. This will be your ultimate guide to identity shifting in 2025, to have the kind of shift that I had back in 2017. Look, I'm going to be holding absolutely nothing back. By the end of this, there will be 2 main tools to help you accelerate your journey. Number 1, a comprehensive guide that will summarize everything that I'm going to speak about and provide you access to resources to aid you in this identity shift. Number 2, a 90-day protocol that will guide you into making the identity shift into your ideal self. 2025 is a very unique year. AI is getting stronger, smarter, and more pernicious as it invades our lives. Menial, everyday jobs will soon be replaced. The future honestly belongs to creators, those who can make things that AI will never be able to replicate. As Maxwell Maltz says, science can build the computer, but not the operator. It's time you step into the role God has made for you. It's time you become who you were meant to be, the operator of your own life. Identity shifting is the process of homecoming, removing false conditioning and identifying with who you were truly meant to be and become that. In order to have what you truly want, you must first become who you are meant to be. So with that, let's get started. So to begin with, I want to share with you 2 success stories of ours that we've gotten last year of our customers who've actually implemented the 4 pillars that I'm about to share with you right now, and the exercises, the exact exercises I will share with you, and the 90-day protocol. So take a look at Mariam. Mariam had completely transformed her life. She was going through a really, really tough time last year, renting a room from a relative, waking up with a knot in her throat, and this was after the passing of her father. She joined the program, completely changed her life, used this process of identity shifting to become a completely new person, and fast forward, she says, now I have my own beautiful home with my name on the deed, a thriving and successful business that I obtained licensing for in the most compliance-heavy state, my own YouTube channel and school platform. Lastly, I look and feel the healthiest I've ever been in my life, and I have an amazing support group. She went from a really, really tough time, very deeply disturbing, depressing time in her life, and has completely turned it around. Imagine not being able to get up from bed in the morning and just do what you set out to do because you just feel so down. You just feel so defeated by the world, and then overcoming that. It takes a big triumph of will. It takes a complete identity shift. And that's what Mariam was able to do. And not only that, as a result of doing this, she started a brand new business that's over the first 6 months has made around 100,000, around 6 figures. We also have our client Shams, who has completely transformed his life, and he went from being at 4K, being overweight in his car detailing business, barely able to get by, to within 12 months of implementing this, he scaled his income to $33,000 a month. And not only that, he went from weighing 320 pounds to weighing 278 pounds and losing more. He says this 42-pound loss wasn't just about shedding weight, but it was about gaining a new perspective on discipline and self-care. So in short, when we see transformations like this happening, it's because they have become a completely new person. Their identity has completely shifted. So with that, I'm really excited to share this with you that will allow you to make this shift happen. So let's get started with pillar number 1, awareness. So before you can make an identity shift, what needs to happen, the most fundamental thing that needs to happen, is an unattachment from your current identity. And the only way this can happen is by you stepping into this state of pure awareness that I am. Before you can say I am this, you must exist neutrally as I am. So awareness is always the very first step before we can make any kind of change. The very first time I realized this was in my sophomore year of college, when I was going through a very big heartbreak, my very first big heartbreak. And I remember this was around spring break of my sophomore year. I just felt so depressed, and I just felt these awful thoughts come up, life-ending thoughts come up, and I just couldn't live with myself. And every time I would close my eyes, I would feel this strong breaking sensation within my body, as though I just felt hopeless. And I didn't know anything at the time. She was my world, and all I knew was college and the girl I had a crush on, and the girl, I had this fling with. I never really talked about this before, so it's kind of a raw topic for me to talk about, but it was so far in the past I can comfortably talk about it now that I've overcome it, I think. Anyway, so long story short, what happened was I was at this very deep, dark moment in my life, but then I came across this book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And as I was reading this, it taught me about this concept of pain body attacks. But more than that, it taught me about this concept of presence and how when we're not present to the moment, we become susceptible to pain body attacks. Our body just has these attacks that arise from the unconscious, things that we haven't dealt with, and it just hijacks our consciousness. So the key to overcoming that was to be in the moment and be in the now, to step away from the mind and its thoughts. And the only way to do that is by stepping into this state of the witness, the watchful observer, okay? And when I started to step into this watchful observer, that's the only thing, I shit you not, that's the only thing that allowed me to break free from that toxic cycle I was going through. I remember I was on a drive to Montreal at the time with my parents, and they were like, "What's wrong? You seem really down." And I couldn't tell them what was happening because, I have Bangladeshi parents, they're very traditional, they wouldn't understand like they would tell me, why are you focusing on women? Just go study, like go get your college degree. So I couldn't really talk to anyone about this at the time, so I was forced to deal with it on my own. And, when I started to begin watching these thoughts and not take so much ownership of why do I feel this way, I went from having those suicidal thoughts of life-ending thoughts to these are just thoughts that are arising. And that was the first time in my life I had this realization that what was happening that I didn't choose, is not me. This was not me. This was simply just arising due to other external influences, bodily, egoic influences, but it doesn't have to be me. And at that moment, I realized that I could choose who I wanted to become. So stepping into this true awareness, but by first looking at myself rather than as myself, was the most crucial thing. So in order to make any kind of shift in your life, to make an identity shift, you can't do it with a full cup. Your cup has to first be empty before you can fill it up consciously with what you want to fill it up with. What most people do is they try to change who they are. Trying to change who you are is the very definition of resistance. You're basically saying, something is wrong with me, I must fight to change myself, instead of accepting what was happening and not unattaching from it and not taking ownership of it and saying, you know what, this is simply what's arising. This is not me. Instead of trying to change who you are, you just ditch that old self and you choose who you would like to be instead, which is what I'm going to show you in pillar number 2. But for this step, it is very, very crucial that you understand how to look at yourself from a third person perspective instead of having such deep identification with your personal points of view, with your feelings, with your thoughts, with what's happening in the body, because this ultimately is not you. You didn't choose everything. There's some parts of you've chosen to construct, other parts of you were just collected as you lived life and as you've had experiences. Okay, so the crucial thing I want you to take away is before you can make any kind of shift, you must first empty your cup. You cannot create a new identity when you're attached to your current identity. So now I'm going to share with you a 5-step exercise, a 5-question exercise that I want you to partake in right now. And this will be in the guide that is attached right below this video. You can just click on the link in the pinned comments to access that. And let's get right to this 5-question exercise. So the very purpose of this exercise is to become aware of the current self. Okay? We want to become aware of who is this version of me that exists right now, that has been crafted. And in order to do that, we have to ask 5 simple questions. Number 1, what habits do I have that are currently not serving me? List 3 to 5 different habits that you find are not serving you. Anything that you do that you don't like. Procrastination, you keep binging on junk food, you keep watching pornography or adult material that you don't want to watch, or any kind of other habit you keep, that is again procrastinating, putting things off till the last minute. You keep getting angry and reacting. Whatever it is, these are just examples. You wake up late, etc. List 5 habits that you have that are not serving you. Number 2, what negative thoughts and feelings come up recurrently? What negative thoughts have come up for you in a pattern in your life? And this was very crucial for me to look at when I saw that depressing, that cycle of negative thoughts that came up for me. That wasn't the first time I had those thoughts. That event was just a trigger for those thoughts that have been lying latent within me to come up. It showed me that pain body attack was something that I was holding onto within my body from a very long time ago. It might be even from previous lifetimes. Okay, but we want to get an awareness of what is happening. This is very, very crucial. So list 3 to 5 negative thoughts and feelings you have noticed throughout your whole life. Number 3, what qualities do I despise in other people? Why? You can list 3 to 5, okay? Look at qualities that you look at in other people that you absolutely despise. This might be people who brag too much, people who are lazy, right? And chances are these are qualities that you despise within yourself. Why? Because you've grown up to believe these are negative qualities. Someone has told you these are negative qualities, not aspirational qualities. And what happens is when we start to view it that way, it gets deeply stuffed down within our psyche and it becomes a shadow. And that shadow begins to live a life of its own until one day you have a quarter-life crisis or a midlife crisis. The pressure is built up so much, it starts to act out in psychosomatic ways in which you wouldn't want it to act out, and it starts to affect your life. Okay? So you must become aware of this now before it starts to haunt you in unconscious ways. And as Carl Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, we will call it fate. It will direct our life. Okay? So, what are the qualities that you despise in other people and why? Number 4, what are some of the biggest mistakes this current self has made in the past that I regret? What are some of the biggest mistakes or things or events that have happened, decisions that you made in the past that you still regret to this day? And again, I know this line of questioning seems negative, but you need to confront these demons before you can make any kind of change happen in your life. This is the number one thing we show our clients how to do before they actually make a shift. We need to get to terms with this shadow self before we can make any kind of meaningful change happen. Okay? And lastly, how do you cope with pain? When you're going through pain and suffering, how do you escape it? What are your natural reactions to escaping it? For me, I used to binge on sugary junk food. I would remember at the end of a workday, when I started my business, this was throughout the initial stages, at the end of the workday, to feel comfort, to feel that dopamine spike, I would sit down with like a big tub of ice cream or cookies and just turn on the TV and just eat my way into oblivion until I just felt so numb I couldn't do anything. And then the next day I would feel horrible and I would berate myself after. It was a very, very toxic cycle. For you, what do? Do you go on social media? Do you watch pornography? Do you, maybe hit the vape or, consume nicotine or, smoke marijuana, like whatever it is? What do you do? Just list that down honestly and truly and really look at it. This is going to be a very powerful exercise for you. It's going to be a big revelation for you because you're going to start to find things about yourself that you never knew and you didn't have this deep of a clarity on who this current self is. And so what we're doing is we're taking stuff out of our shadow and we're really looking at it. Okay, we're really looking at this current self. And once you've done this, now you're ready to make the shift into who you were meant to be. And this is where pillar number 2 comes in. Pillar number 2 is clarity, defining your new self, the self that you have always dreamed of becoming, but it was always just one step ahead of you. You just couldn't reach it. So let's get to doing that right now with pillar number 2, clarity. So with clarity, our goal is to get clear on who we want to become. In 2025, this year, which version of myself do I want to embody? What you have to understand is within our whole psyche, the wholeness of our being, there exists multiple different personalities. There's the hero, the inner child, the inner parent, the shadow, the ego. All of these personas, the anima, the animus, the female, the masculine, they all exist within us. But then sometimes there's an imbalance of one persona getting too strong, and it's typically the ego. The ego gets too strong, and the other personas, they get stuffed down and it starts to haunt us in our lives. And Carl Jung always said, I would rather be whole than good. We believe that the ego is meant to be good because the ego is like, oh, fit into society, do the good thing, do the right thing. It always tries to be good. But then it's always at the expense of your mental health and just wholeness in general, okay? So the key here is to get clear on this new identity. Who do you want to be moving forward? Because when we become who we're meant to be, the doing naturally follows and the having ensues. Okay, so to exemplify this, I want to ask you, do you remember a time, maybe if you're old enough to drive, or you have a license, you've driven before, being on the highway, driving in your lane, and you look right next to you, and you look at the lane right next to you, and you see a car just going, and you just focus on avoiding that car next to you. And the more you focus on avoiding it, for some reason your steering wheel keeps moving towards that other car. Isn't that crazy? Well, that happens because we have this servo mechanism within us, this target fixation. We just move towards what we focus on. Life doesn't care about what we want or what we don't want. It looks at the content of what we want and what we don't want. If we want more good things, we get more good things. If we don't want bad things, then we get bad things. Do you see how that works? We get more of what we want, more of what we love, and more of what we hate. Life doesn't care about the nature of our thoughts, it cares about the purified content of it. And the more intensity we have in this nature, the more we love something, the more we get it. The more we hate something, the more we get it. The intensity of our love and hatred is what brings that thing, the content, in abundance. So this is something you have to remember. Now, why this is important is because we want to always have a clear picture of who we want to become, the ideal self that we want to become. And this becomes especially crucial in this 90-day protocol that I'm going to share with you towards the end of this video. Okay? So in order to have what we want, we must first become who we were meant to be. But the formula for clarity is threefold. Okay? What plus why plus who equals how plus when. Simple. When you have intellectual clarity on what you want, and emotional clarity, why you want it, and identity level clarity on who you must become to achieve it, when these three parts are congruent within you, the how and when will naturally show up. You will never have to even lift a finger for the how and when. This is exactly what happened to me. Back in 2017, 2018, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I felt so lost. I was about to finish up my junior year. Around that time, I'd just been to a summer internship at an engineering box plant, and they offered me a really, really good job. And they were like, okay, you get paid 50 grand a year, health insurance, everything, secure job, everything a new graduate could ever dream of. It was right there for me. But I remember going to that internship and just feeling so miserable and looking at my colleagues, and they were trying to stick their arms in the machines to get workers' comp and get out of there because it was just such a depressing environment to be in. And I remember journaling that time saying, is this it? Is this it for me? Like, could this be my fate? There must be something more. And I remember in August of 2018 or something, I set a goal of wanting to quit and starting my own business and making 20K a month. August of, I believe this was July of 2018, I must have set this goal. And I had no clue how that would happen. Just a vague idea, like maybe something to do with a YouTube channel because I'd seen two of my friends at the time making 10K a month with a YouTube channel. I just wanted financial freedom. I wanted the freedom to do what I wanted, when I wanted, with whoever I wanted to be with, my family, my friends, and just travel the world. Right? I just wanted freedom. That's one of my greatest values in life, is just freedom of time. And so I put that goal down, not knowing what would happen. And I focused every single day. I visualized me being my ideal self, waking up in a mansion in LA next to the woman of my dreams. And I was single at the time, having that red Ferrari. I just visualized that every single night. And I pretended to be the person who would be worthy of achieving that. I had the idea of starting up my YouTube channel at the end of 2017, December 31st, 2017. I started this YouTube channel and I published my very first video Jan 1st, 2018. And then one thing after another just unfolded. The how and when just showed itself. I had someone reach out to me for coaching, and back then I didn't even know coaching would be a viable option. For all I knew, I'd be selling merch on this channel. So everything just unfolded magically to the point where it led me from where I was to 7 years now later, being here today, having a business that generates multiple millions every single year, living in the house of my dreams, married to the woman of my dreams. I just had a son. Like, I couldn't have imagined my life being like this today. If you told me then that this is what my life would be like today, I would have laughed at you. I wouldn't have believed you, right? And this all happened because I was intellectually clear on what I wanted. I had a clear picture of what I wanted. I also knew why I wanted it. That deep sense of, I want this time freedom. It feels so right for me. There's emotional clarity on it. And also, I was clear on who I wanted to be. This version of myself that I would be when I'm effortlessly achieving that. Okay? What most people unfortunately do is they think they want one thing, but then emotionally they're focused on something else. They think they want the financial freedom, but emotionally they're focused on getting away from their job. And they keep focusing on who they currently are and reacting to this part of themselves, this 1.0 part of themselves every single day. Like, oh, why am I like this? Why can't I quit these harmful, toxic habits? And then belittling themselves, berating themselves, not focusing on who they want to be, right? Most people spend a lot of time very, very much in the past. They look at all of the mistakes they made in the past and regretting them, all the failures, and then blaming their current circumstances, blaming external world for where they are, instead of focusing on what they would like to create in the next moment. The key feature that I've seen of all people who are wildly successful is they are visionaries. They're always focused on creating the next moment. They're present and in the future, instead of regretful people who regret the past and then blame the present. Reality creators are grateful for the present and are excited about the future. I want you to write this down. Reality creators are grateful for the present moment and they're excited about what the future could bring. People who are slaves to their reality are regretful of the past and blame and are ungrateful for the present moment. That's honestly a hallmark feature of what I've seen in these two types of people. And so when you can fully get congruent intellectually, I want this. I want to quit my job and start my own business and have this kind of freedom. This is what it would look like. I'd be making 20K a month, this is where I'd be living, etc. This is what the picture looks like. Why I want it? I want to experience that freedom, and it feels so good to have that freedom, instead of focusing on what they don't want. Remember, reality gives you more of what you want and more of what you don't want. So when you confuse reality by picturing that freedom, but then constantly thinking about your miserable job, then you've confused reality. Then reality will reflect that confusion to you. You will move one step forward and then one step back. Okay, and then finally, this is the piece that most people miss, is who must I become? So now let's get to this piece because it's so intricate. I won't get to the what and why here because it's a lot more detailed. We do this with our clients in our program, but it's a lot more detailed, and even the who part is detailed, but I'm just gonna give you everything you need now to make a shift and get immediate results with this. So let's get to who. Who must I become? So in order to understand who you must become, you simply need to ask yourself 4 questions. Number 1, what are 5 habits your 2.0 self has? So understand that we're trying to create this picture of our ideal selves, okay? So number 1, what are the 5 habits that your ideal self would have? Number 2, how would your ideal self dress? Are there any distinguishing features? Like for me, my ideal self dresses simply, wears a really nice wristwatch that's somewhat expensive, wears comfortable clothing that fit very, very well. At nighttime, he wears a blue light blocking eyewear glasses. So for you, how does your ideal self dress? What's the hairstyle that your ideal self would have? When you picture you being your ideal self, experiencing the what and experiencing the why, who would you be? Write that down. How does this ideal self communicate with others in social settings? How do you put yourself forward? Are you timid and shy, or are you more confident? Are you more relaxed within your body? How does this ideal self respond to challenges? This is a crucial one. So write down the answers to this. We're just painting a picture of our ideal self. You can ask even more questions to get even clearer on who you would be. And the more clear you can get and the more creative you can get, the better it is. Okay, so I want you to save these answers in the workbook. Just make sure you have it written down somewhere. And now let's get to the next part. So the final thing before we get to the next part, which will be creating, the creation process, creating your ideal self step by step. The one key I would like to leave you off with in section number 2, clarity, is define everything very, very clearly, and in your daily life as you live it. This is more of a dynamic exercise. Ask yourself, if I were my ideal self, what would I do and how would I do it? This is very crucial, especially when you're at turning points in your life. A lot of the times my clients ask me questions about, oh, Quazi, I'm presented with these 2 different options. Which one should I take? I ask them, if you were your ideal self, which option would the ideal self take? More often than not, it's always the most uncomfortable decision. And it's never the comfortable one. Like, oh, this is the most uncomfortable decision, but this is what my ideal self would do. Well, then you have your answer cut out for you. Just ask yourself, what would your ideal self do? And how would they show up here? If you have a very important presentation to give, if you have to create a video, how would your ideal self show up to it? These are crucial questions to keep in mind before you execute on a task, because that makes your intention, which takes me to the next part, the creation process. How to step by step create this ideal self and project your dream reality every single day. And I can confidently say this process I've been doing again for the last 8 years, ever since I learned it, and it's allowed me to systematically visualize my dream life into existence. By the way, before I get to the next part, if you would like to work closer together with me and my team in our personal mentorship, to have us handhold you through this process to create your ideal self in 2025 and make 2025 your year, just go to realitycreator.com/apply to fill up a short application to work with us. All you need to do is just fill it up. It's like a 10-question survey, and you can schedule a free one-on-one consultation call to see if we'd be a good fit. I'll get to more on that later, but I just wanted to announce this right now for those of you who are watching. So now let's get to the creation part of this. Now, what I want you to understand is you can only create that which you already are. You can only create who you already are. If you can't conceive of something, then it wasn't meant for you. If you can conceive of something, then it was meant for you. So what the creation process does is it utilizes a model of reality I like to call the film and script model. So how the film and script model of reality works is if we have this reality and we have our current reality, and these are potential outcomes in the quantum realm, right? These are all 1, 2, 3 potential outcomes that can be manifested. This is our current, and these are different scripts, the path before it reaches this particular frame of reality, and we are in this current frame. So if you imagine a projector or a film reel, there's different frames in this film reel. Currently, one frame is being illuminated, and that's why you're experiencing this current life. This current frame is illuminated based on your thoughts and your feelings, your mind and your heart. Whatever your mind and heart are congruent in, this congruency, the what, why, and who, is what manifests this current reality. Your intellectual, your mind, heart, and identity is what's manifesting your current reality, okay? Now, what dictates future realities to be manifested is also determined by what thoughts, feelings, and identity you project in the next moment. So, this projection is changed by 2 control functions. It's affected by 2 control functions that we all possess. And these 2 control functions are attention and intention. So, to create something, we have to tap back into awareness. And this is the magic of it. This is how everything that we've learned just now so far, how it all comes together and plays a part. We have to first become empty with attention to create our new intention. Okay? So the 2 control functions, attention and intention, that determines which script will play to manifest that frame that you want to experience. A lifeline in which you are wealthy, rich, a lifeline in which you're completely broke, a lifeline in which you're dead, a lifeline in which you are wealthier than you could have ever imagined and you have everything that you want. They all exist. These are all potential outcomes in the quantum space that is manifested by what, why, and who. Okay? Most people, what they do is they focus on the actions, but the actions, if they're created from this current state of being, there's no point. It's kind of like a hamster running around in circles. If you keep acting from your current state of consciousness, then you will keep manifesting your current state of consciousness. Nothing will change. Now, yes, you can take massive enough action that it completely shocks your psyche to change the what, why, and who, but why not just begin at the source? Why not just begin with your character, with what, why, and who, your internal world, to create the external? Why do it, the more erratic, the highest disturbance, the most imbalanced way? Why not just do it the most efficient way? And that's what I want to show you here. So what we want to do, the very first step, is we need to unattach from this current reality, because this current reality already has a script in play. Remember, one script has led to this current reality. Okay, so if we assume, for simplicity's sake, and I know this is getting a little bit complex, so I want you to bear with me. If we assume that this is the same script, that means the script that's running right now is leading you to this frame. So let's say in your current lifeline, you are at a 9-to-5 job that you hate, that gives you no freedom in your life. This is the script that's playing that's led to this particular frame today. Well, if this script keeps playing, then you are likely to stay in this lifeline or in this script, and the future frame will look somewhat similar to this. You would just be older, right? It wouldn't be that much different. If we want to go to a drastically different lifeline, we want to make a shift in lifelines. Some people talk about this and call it the 5D, or making a shift in timelines. This is the same concept. If we want to make a shift within lifelines to move the railroad tracks to a new lifeline, a new intention has to come in, a new script has to play. But in order to play the new script, we have to unattach from this current script, and that's where attention comes in. And this is the one exercise we encourage we make it mandatory for our clients to do, because it's the most powerful exercise you can do. So the very first step is you need to center your attention. Why? I want you to think about this. Have you ever woken up in a dream and you were lucid dreaming and you realized you could control everything in the dream? Why could you do that? Because you realize you're in dreaming. What would happen if the actors or the characters in a play all of a sudden just woke up? They just woke up and they realized they were in a play. Well, none of it would be serious anymore, right? All of the conflict that they were facing, it would just be meager. It would just be this is just a play happening. It wouldn't be so personal. All the problems in your life wouldn't be so personal. It wouldn't feel like a life or death at every single moment. What a liberating way to live. Wouldn't that be a great way to live? If not every single event that happens gives you so much anxiety and just makes you feel like you're gonna die, how great would that be? You would be free. And this is what the ancient yogis talked about. They talked about ending this illusion of Maya. And how can you do that? By tapping into that reference point. So in dream, if we wake up, reality is the reference point of waking up in a dream, right? This physical reality is the reference point of waking up in a dream. When we wake up in a dream, we wake up to reality. What happens when I wake up in reality? What am I waking up to? That's what I want to talk to you about. When we center our attention, we wake up to the highest possible reality, the truth, the oneness, the I am, okay? And the way to do that, you can do this right now, is when you unattach from anything that's happening internally and anything that you're so focused on externally. If I'm very preoccupied with a task right now and it's just draining all of my attention, I'm absorbed into this task. If I'm in my head right now and I just keep thinking thoughts, I'm absorbed here. So typically, there are two screens that we have that we get absorbed into. This inner screen of thoughts and the outer screen of the world. The key is to come in between two screens, to have our attention in between these two screens. That's when we can wake up. We're neither on the outer screen or the inner screen, but we are watching both. We are the watcher of both. We are the witness. We are that I am. The yogis talked about this a long time ago. They said, this world came to be first from nothingness. Nothingness became aware of itself. Awareness became conscious and became localized. Consciousness became the mind. There was movement within consciousness which caused mind. And then the mind created the body. And that's why the placebo effect exists. Because the mind creates these illnesses, right? The mind creates the body. And so this is the cycle from nothingness to this physical world forming. It's that nothingness, that awareness, that formlessness that created it all. And that's what we want to tap back into. That's what people, some people call God, the highest divine being that ever can be conceived of. So to tap into awareness, all you simply have to do is ask yourself 3 questions. Who am I? Where am I? And what am I doing? So if right now I ask these questions, who am I? I'm this character called Quazi. I identify with this character as Quazi, this body, this mind. Where am I? Spatially, I'm aware that I'm in this room making this video. What am I doing? Making this video. Well, now that I can see myself and I see my reality, I've woken up. It's the realization. The realization is what wakes you up. I can witness myself, this character, in the third person. It's almost like I'm not it. There is a pure witnessing and watching, just like we did in awareness. And this is why it's so crucial, because now this is a dynamic exercise to tap back into awareness and look at the character. So even now, as this video is being made, I see this character speak and make this video. It's simply spontaneously coming out. And as you start to do this exercise, you're going to find that your eyes kind of light up and you get this new sense of energy. It's almost like you're no longer resisting or being so deliberate. Things are just flowing out and you're simply witnessing. There is a flow and a sense of ease in your life. That's what happens when you truly center your attention. You unattach from the script. So now that we've unattached from the script by centering our attention, we have the choice in which reality we want to create. And so this is where intention comes in. So the next part of this is to utilize intention. And so what you want to do from here is to begin visualizing. You ask yourself the 3 questions, you unattach from everything, and then you close your eyes and visualize for just 30 seconds at the very least about the next moment you want to create, the next thing you would like to experience. Or it could be a goal far ahead in advance. And what we do when we do that is we attune. Our thought energy attunes to the frequency of this target lifeline, okay? The script hasn't been put in place yet. We simply attune to this frame, that energy of this frame. And as we do it enough, slowly the shift happens. Slowly there's a moving of this script to that script. And you'll start to notice like just little changes happening that are out of the ordinary in your reality. Maybe something will happen on your daily ride to work that will take you another way. Or maybe a mishap will happen. Something crazy will happen. Maybe you'll get fired from your job and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. But is it? What if it was a blessing in disguise? By the way, all of our clients, whenever they join, we see this like all the time. By week 3, week 2, week 3, they go through this tumultuous period. They're like, oh no, everything's falling apart. I don't know what to do. I'm so anxious. I'm so nervous. This wasn't meant to happen. You know, I joined this program like I was supposed to get this, this, and this. It's part of the process. This has to happen. This is reality revitalizing itself so that you can move towards what you want. For how do you know this wasn't God's will? How do you know that this is not what was meant to happen so that you could be delivered to this? Reality is cleaning up the mess so that you can move towards that. All you need to do is keep persisting. And this is where most people fail, because they make the intention, they begin visualizing what they want, like I did every single night before bed. And I had a ton of challenges come up. When I quit, you know, I went all in my business, and then my business was doing okay at the start, and then all of a sudden it plummeted, and my parents were like, what are you doing? Every single day, you know, they were just hounding on me, especially my dad would be like, did you make a sale today? And I remember the month of May 2019 was the worst month ever in business, and that was the month I was supposed to make 5K to prove to my parents that I can replace my job with my own income. And I failed to do that because I made 0 that month, right? And I had a dark night of the soul that month, one night, and I just broke down in tears, crying on the floor, like just not knowing what to do. One of our clients recently came on, she had this exact same thing happen, and now she manifested her dream job remote so that she can work on her art. But I remember every single day she would come on the call, be like, Quazi, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, I'm living at home with my parents and they keep hounding down on me. You know, I joined the program. I really wanted the shift to happen. It took her around 8-9 months for her to magically find this new job, be able to move out, and they're flying out. They flew her out with this new job. It was obscene. You know, she came on the call, she came back on our group calls one day after like 8-9 months. She's like, yeah, you know, everything shifted for me in my life. And it's crazy how that works. All you need to do is persist. Your mission is to just don't let the light die. Don't let the light die. Keep it alive, keep it burning, keep the flame burning. Just focus on what you want. It will come. Forget about the how. Forget about the how and when. If nothing's going your way, then just assume this was meant to happen. Assume this was God's way of making it happen. And that's exactly what will happen when you assume that. Okay? So this is the attention and intention exercise that will change your life. One of our clients, Lars, used this, and within a few short months of working with us, he made his first ever $200,000 month in his business. He's a chiropractor, and he attributes his success. And by the way, he did this while working 70% less. He attributes his success to this vision work, right? To focusing on this ideal every single day and just persisting despite whatever happens. And it's typically like all the time, whenever you make an intention, this is what happens before the shift actually happens. God seemingly messes everything up. Nothing makes sense. You feel lost. You're going to feel lost in your life, and you don't know why. You don't know why you feel this way. And everything seems to be in shambles, because that's when we become open to receiving. If everything were normal, we wouldn't be open. We'd be closed off because we become comfortable. We never grow in comfort. It's in discomfort that we grow. The Buddha said life is suffering. Why? Because the very act of living is painful. Without pain, we wouldn't be alive. When are you the most comfortable? When you're dead, not when you're alive. Think about it. Who is the most comfortable? The dead. There is no pain. But when you're alive, there is pain. And that's the beauty of life. That is one of the bittersweet joys of life, this pain. And that's how we grow. There's growing pains. So now, finally, pillar number 4. When you shift and create this new identity, when you focus on this goal with intention, you will find that you are becoming this ideal self every single day. Okay? But when these challenges come up, most people fail because they fall back to their old selves and their old patterns. So now it's crucial that you ground yourself in your new identity. And this is where coordination comes in. So the key to mastering coordination is to maintain your inner balance and cultivate what I like to call selective unattachment, not detachment. There is a very significant difference between detachment and unattachment. Detachment is an unconscious process. We run away from whatever it is that we're struggling with. Unattachment is a choice. You choose to unattach yourself. You choose to take a break. So when you do that, what happens is your thought energy doesn't become so concentrated, and it doesn't create an imbalance in the field of nature. When our thought energy becomes obsessed with one target and one goal, that thing, the lifeline that we're chasing after, we do 2 things. We establish a reality that I really want this. To the universe, in terms of energy, it means I do not already have this. Because if you had it, you wouldn't want it so much. You would already assume it's done and that it's yours. But the very fact that you keep thirsting for it, chasing after it. Have you ever noticed how whatever you chase after your whole life just runs away from you? Anything you chase after, you're waiting for a deal to close, a big deal to close. The more you keep thinking about it, the more you keep waiting for it, the more it seems like the other party keeps delaying. Maybe you like a girl or a guy and you're waiting for a text and you keep thinking about them. The more you keep checking your phone, the more empty it seems. The more you keep wanting that job, the further it runs away from you. Why? It's because of this thought energy. When thought energy becomes too concentrated, it does two things. Number one, establishes the reality you're not worthy because you're assuming that it's not yours because you keep wanting it. I want means I do not have. I desire means I do not have. The second thing it does is it creates an imbalance in the field of nature. And nature takes the path of least resistance to balance something out. So what I mean by that is, let's imagine gravitational potential energy. Let's say I take this chalk from ground level up to here. What does it want to do? It wants to move to the lowest elevation. Every time you raise something up, Newton's law of gravitation, you give it gravitational potential energy. When I drop it, it gets converted to kinetic energy. This gravitational potential gets converted to kinetic energy. This is an unstable equilibrium for this chalk because it wants to fall down. It's unstable up here. It wants to grow to the most stable energetic state. Just like that, your thought energy wants to get to the most, the field of the universe wants to get to the most energetically stable state. When you put so much importance and meaning on one goal, and you make it your life's mission, I will achieve this, I must have this, I will fight until I achieve this. What happens is you give it too much meaning. You put it on a pedestal. Anything you put on a pedestal has no choice but to look down upon you. And so when you create this imbalance in the field of nature, with your thought energy, you create a thought potential. Nature wants to come in to balance this. And we don't really know how nature will balance it. But most of the time, it balances it out by taking the thing that you want away from you further and further. So if you think about a man walking a tightrope for the first time on a very high precipice, when that man looks down, he's going to feel fear, even with experienced tightrope walkers. But if the tightrope were on the ground, right, or like a thin beam were on the ground and they were walking it, they would just stroll across it because, hey, I can't fall. But now all of a sudden, when it's on such a high precipice, there's a lot more fear of death, a fear of plunging into their own death, right? So when this man is walking the tightrope or the beam, the wooden beam, whatever you want to call it, they feel a lot of fear. And now what's interesting is when they cross to the other side finally, they feel exhausted because a lot of their intention energy was getting sucked into creating this importance, or feeding it to fear. They were focused on don't fall, don't fall, don't fall, instead of move to the other side, move to the other side. So when you feel drained in your daily life, it's mostly because you've been internally fighting demons. You've been resisting your whole day. Your body has been tight, right? You've been focusing on something that you don't want, that you want to avoid. That's why you feel exhausted at the end of the day, or even in the middle of the day. You feel so fatigued. Your energy levels have been sucked by the fears, by the resistances, by holding on to that important thing. So what's the solution? The solution to preventing this from happening is to maintain balance by lowering importance. So the question is, how do we lower importance? The most powerful method that I've been able to teach my clients of lowering importance, because most importance, you can just say, just stop thinking about it. What good does that do? You can try to stop thinking about it, but the thoughts are never the problem. It's the feelings. One feeling produces 1,000 thoughts that try to justify the presence of that feeling. When you feel anxious, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I feel anxious because my check that I wanted didn't come in the mail, or whatever it is, right? Like you just invent things. You try to justify why you feel anxious. So instead of trying to work with the thoughts, go straight into the body. But whatever you feel, and typically for most people, it's anywhere in the solar plexus region to the gut. They feel this very constricted feeling in their gut. And there's a great book on this called Letting Go by David R. Hawkins. He talks about this method of letting go, but how we like to do it with our clients is through a breathwork exercise. So whenever you feel a strong, tense feeling within your body, you are waiting for an outcome or anything, you simply breathe into that feeling. You take a deep breath in through your nose and you imagine that feeling getting stronger and stronger. You're breathing into it and you're moving through it. And then you exhale it out into the world. And you do this anywhere from 3 to 10 times or however long it takes. This is a method I like to call incremental surrender, where surrendering it in increments. what you'll notice is when you take this deep breath, it has a relaxing feel to it. But then the fear comes back again because it still hasn't been fully dealt with. So every time it comes in, feel into it. Feel grateful for it. Give it a mental embrace. Thank you for existing. Thank you for coming up. The fact that it's coming up is actually a very good sign. That means you're becoming conscious. You're not numb anymore. You're growing. You're alive. Remember, to feel pain means to be alive. So when you feel this pain, you're alive. You're growing. You're becoming your ideal self. The old is clearing itself out so that there is space for the new. Okay? This is the number one way to reduce importance. 3 simple steps. Locate where it is in your body. Breathe into it with your nose. Give it a mental embrace. Feel grateful for it. Exhale it out into the world. Imagine that it flows out of you and into the world. The other thing you could do is also, when you exhale, you could feel it circulate around your body. The only issue is the energy is stagnant within our body, which blocks the flow of energy. Have you ever noticed when you feel anxiety, it kind of like comes up, but then it gets stopped. The energy gets blocked at the heart or at the gut. Like it just can't rise. Your energy meridians aren't flowing properly. That's what happens. So the 1 or 2 things you could do is either blow it out or just feel it circulate around your body as though the channels are clearing up. So now, for your 90-day exercise, this 90-day protocol, I want you to use this journal every single day, this guide that we've created. Look at it every single morning, and there's going to be a tracking sheet, a 90-day tracking sheet. I want you to look at it every morning, in the morning, and look at who you were being and who you want to become. Just notice a clear distinction between each. This is important. There has to be a separation between each, but spend a little bit more time focusing on who you want to be, okay? And remember the keys for the day when you make your decisions, when you feel anxiety, or when you want to center your attention, visualize these exercises, different trigger points during the day to use them. And at the end of the day, at nighttime, I want you to come back to it and tick. Do a tick on day 1, done, okay? At day 2, done. And then write your thoughts of how the day actually went. Just subjective thoughts on how the day went and a rating out of 10 on how you did. This is going to be very, very crucial. And after that, what I would like for you to do is come back to this and create an accountability thread, like 90-day accountability thread, and then just copy and paste everything that you've written down for the end of the day, your end of day review, here. And you can just keep commenting every single day for your own thread, for your own accountability thread. And I'm really excited for you to take advantage of this, and you'll be able to use this every single day, and I'm looking forward to your success. So it's 2025, and this year we're doing something very special. And this very special thing is what I like to call the Chosen 12. And so this year we're going to be featuring 12 of our top customer success stories of 2024, because one of our deepest values is customer results. Customer results mean everything to us. And there's a reason why we've been getting some of the best results, unheard of results in the industry in our program. And both Shams and Mariam made the cut. But I want to share with you Britt, who recently put in her entry into the Chosen 12. Check this out. So Britt, with our help, through the identity shifting process, was able to launch her online course, spoke in front of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., featured speaker at National Law for Life Conference in Washington, D.C., spoke at the United Nations headquarters in New York, face plastered on Jumbotron in Times Square, New York. The list just goes on, and you can look at it. I'm putting the whole thing up. But I say this because this year I'm looking for 12 more success stories to feature in 2025. And I want you to be one of the 12. So if you want to get results like Shams, Mariam, and Britt, what I'd like for you to do is click on the link here or just go to realitycreator.com/apply to work closely together with me and my team through personal mentorship to help you facilitate the identity shift and make 2025 your year. The number one reason we can get our clients results like these is because we focus on the one timeless principle that all successful celebrities, athletes that you know of, they've all implemented this one way or another. And that is what I just showed you here, identity shifting. But we go in so much more detail. There's just so much to it that a 40-minute video, however long this video is, wouldn't justify it. Once you're able to shift your identity, not only are you able to achieve your goals, but you're able to keep them as well. I can't tell you how many times I've seen lottery winners, make a big win, but then lose it all. In fact, there's a statistic that shows that 70% of lottery winners lose their wealth just as quickly as they made it. It's not really wealth, it's just a lottery win, right? So I've had clients who've come to me saying, hey, I used to make $80,000 a month, but now everything's gone and I'm bankrupt. Like, they just weren't able to keep it. They sabotaged it. Why? Because they internally never became worthy of keeping it. It's not about how much you get to make, it's about what you get to keep. What's the point if you keep getting into great relationships, but you can't maintain them? You can't grow it. You can't create something beautiful. And that's what identity shifting helps you solve. When you become who you were meant to be, the life that you manifest, it's beyond your wildest dreams. So in our reality mastery program, we literally walk you through how to make a conscious identity shift and teach you the process of shifting as you grow, because your current identity at some point will become a limiting one, because every single belief will eventually become a limiting belief. So it needs to be shifted when the time comes. So this is a fresh year and you get a fresh start. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're someone at work for yourself, this is for you. That's who we're looking to work with. Or you simply want to take your life to the next level and you've tried different tactics and strategies and nothing's really worked for you. You're looking for a deeper, permanent shift, then this is it. The identity shift will make that change that you've been looking for in your life, just as it has done for me and over 1,000 of our clients. The problem that you have right now isn't an action or a doing problem, it's a being problem, and no one shows you how to be. So if this is something that you would like to do, you want to work closer together with me in 2025 to make it your year, all you need to do is click right here, one of the buttons here, or go to realitycreator.com/apply to fill up a short application, and if you qualify, you'll be able to speak to one of our team members in a more detailed conversation, detailed interview, to have a 12-month game plan roadmap for you to see how we can help you implement it and discuss how we can work closely together to make 2025 your year. So go ahead and do that, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thanks.